All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark, and thank you for joining us for the first of many Facility Friday. What we're going to talk about this session is elevators. And so, like I said before, we're going to have a brief presentation, and then we're going to have some questions at the end. So if you can hold all of those great questions, I know that there are questions out there, until the end, maybe I'll be able to answer that as we go through. All right, you guys ready? Oh boy, here we go. I want to start by talking about the accomplishments. Start with the good, right? The elevator accomplishments. We just completed a 5-year testing on a number of elevators in the Central and East Tower. So that's elevators 1 through 5. And what they do with that is it's kind of required the state and the county and of course all the laws and bylaws that elevator companies have. They kind of come in and they kind of intentionally try to I don't want to say break, but they really want to put the elevator through its paces to make sure that not only they're meeting the standard, but they're going to be that they're going to operate under conditions that are the extreme conditions. And so when they do that, they I'm going to say this and it's going to sound weird, but they kind of try to break them so they can find the parts that they need to replace that are of age or showing their age, and so on and so forth. So we just had that inspection, which every 5 years, and on all of those elevators. And so what you may have experienced is a number of outages that happened, especially in the Central and East Tower, that pertain to that. So we just completed that testing probably maybe a little over a month ago on all of those elevators. So we appreciate your patience, but we want to make sure that the elevators are safe, which they are, and we want to make sure that they pass the inspection. So then with that, they re-roped some of the elevators that after a certain amount of time and wear, they have to replace the ropes, and that's a part of the 5-year testing as well. And so several of them needed to be re-roped, which also takes time. So we did several elevators that were re-roped then too. And then finally, on the accomplishment side, I want to talk about the North Tower elevators 10 and 11. And elevators 10 and 11, when we first had Otis come in and take over for the other company that we decided that we wanted to go in a direction that that they were really a little better, more established elevator company, and we went with Otis. We had some problems with elevators 10 and 11, and since they've got in there and they rewrote both of them, and did a lot of maintenance and preventative maintenance. Those elevators have been running pretty steadily for the last number of months. I don't think we've had any real outages or maintenance on the 10 and 11. So I'm pretty happy and proud of that. We track that, and we of course have the invoicing to sort of back that up. So hopefully once we'll see that the work that's done on elevators 1 and 5 reflect what we're experiencing with 10 and 11. So those are the accomplishments. And we're going to move on. We want to talk about elevator outages and the types of elevator outages. And there are several types, and we want to talk about schedule versus preventative. So so I'll just kind of break it down. So going back to our 5-year maintenance on 1 through 5, those were primarily scheduled outages, and where they come in and they say we have to take the elevator out of service for a certain amount of time to do maintenance on it. And some of that maintenance, like I said, re-roping and replacing parts that after a certain amount of time wear out and they have a certain life expectancy. So we want to stay on top of that with the preventative maintenance. And so when it's preventative maintenance, the elevator really isn't broken. We're preventing it from breaking. And so there's a difference between a scheduled maintenance versus preventative maintenance. I'm sorry, schedule maintenance, schedule/preventative maintenance, and then an unscheduled maintenance. Let me get my words right. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I kind of confused myself for a second. I should really read the slides. I'm just kidding. So an unscheduled maintenance is when something actually breaks. And so let's say we have a button come off. That's an unscheduled maintenance. And so when a button comes off or an unscheduled maintenance, we call and they come in and they fix it immediately. If we have unscheduled maintenance, it's not planned. And much like the scheduled maintenance and preventative maintenance, the unscheduled maintenance, we put a little stanchion up in the front showing that the elevator is out of service. But there's a difference between scheduled and preventative and unscheduled. Unscheduled, we're reacting to a problem. Preventative, it is scheduled. Does that make sense? Did I do a good job there? Okay job? So? The pitchforks aren't out yet, so I'm still standing, so I'm happy about that. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go. The schedule and preventative maintenance really helps us cut down on the unscheduled maintenances. So the more it seems kind of counterproductive, but like I said, with elevators 1 through 5, we did a lot of preventative and scheduled maintenance. Really, and what that does is it cuts down on the times that the elevator is unscheduled outage. All right, here we go. Current elevator status. This is where I'm going to really ask for some kindness here. The current status, elevator number 9 and elevator number 2 are currently out of service. Elevator 9 and elevator 2 were kind of waiting on some parts. Elevator 9, which is right over here on the north tower, it kind of on the far. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's on the other side of the Fireside Lounge. Those elevators primarily serve the loading dock, B2, assisted living, and so we have one elevator working there, and it's the one elevator that elevator 8 that services the kitchen and the back side of the house, and so we're grateful that one is in good working condition. And like I said, we're waiting on parts from Otis, and it may come in today. They might be working on it right now to get that elevator up and running. Elevator 2 is out of service too. Now, some of you may have noticed that elevator 2 was in service yesterday, and it is out of service again. So let's talk about that. So elevator 2 is in that elevator bank where they did the sort of the load testing and changed out the ropes and a host of other parts. And so when they kind of take it apart and do all of this maintenance, they have to put it back together. So without getting into the weeds, there are different sort of stops on every floor. In the elevator door, there's an internal door and an external door, and this part and that part. All of those things kind of go together, but they all impact each other. So with elevator 2, that they're really fine tuning, because I think that elevator they did the most work on. They're really sort of as a part of the planned preventative maintenance. They did the most work on that elevator, and they're really fine tuning how fast the door closes, how long it stays open on every floor, and so it's a little difficult to just sort of replace a battery and then call it good. They really have to sort of when they kind of take the elevator down to its bones, if you will, they really have to kind of put it back together and really sort of make sure all the parts are working in unison together. Does that make sense? Hang out. Questions till the end. I'm sorry? Elevator 2 is in the central and east tower. It's right across from the you know where the picture of the month? Robert Durham room. Oh, that's right next to that. I know. That's elevator 1, and and elevator 2 is right next to it. That's why it's kind of near the picture of the month and the memorial board, right? I'll answer all the questions at the end. I will. I promise. There'll be a Q&A. But the really fortunate thing about the central and east, and I know that, and first of all, I want to say that as a part of the facilities team and a representative of Horizon House, we take all of your concerns very seriously. And so I'm not here to say to discount what your concerns are. I'm here to talk about them. And so with elevator 2, like I said, they have to find the perfect balance between all of the doors and the way the doors operate. Okay. Let's go on. Let's move on. You guys are still with me, and I'm still alive. That's great. All right. Let's talk about upcoming outages. We don't have any scheduled outages right now. We don't have anything planned at the moment. So everything that so we don't have any re-roping or 5-year maintenance on any of the other elevators. Okay, so that's good. We will update you when that happens, because, like I said, after a certain period of time, certain parts are scheduled to be inspected, and we'll let you know when those are on the schedule. But right now, none. Oh, a round of applause. Okay. And we'll also, I'm going to go back and talking about, we'll update you on elevator 9 and elevator 2. I don't have a crystal ball as far as when those parts are going to come in. But as soon as they do, they get here and they'll install them, and we'll be back in service. Okay. All right. Here we go. We're at the Q&A session. So, look. Be gentle. Be kind.
We get, I think the thing that I get most tired of.
Okay. Thank you.
The thing that I get most tired of hearing is we're waiting for a part.
Right.
So my question is, isn't it possible, I understand there are lots of parts, but isn't it possible as a service for Otis to stockpile parts?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that, so let me sort of unpack that a little bit. Yes, and they have a great, they have a lot of parts. They service a lot of elevators, and what we have in our building, on our campus, we have some newer elevators in the North Tower, and then we have some older elevators, 1 through 5. For example, between number 1 and 2, they had an elevator switch that was out for a long time. We all experienced that, correct? Well, that part they had to order from New York, and because they simply don't make it anymore. And so this one company that has that part shipped the part, and Otis did their due diligence, and they sent the right information, and then they sent the wrong part. And so they send it back, and they say, hey, this is not the part we need. This is the part. And so they sent it, and then they got it in. So some of these parts, they absolutely stock, a majority of them, and some of them they have to source in locations like New York. So they can't. There's so many parts. I've been inside the elevator, not only control rooms, but seen the hoistway. There are a lot of parts, and so especially with the older elevators, it's hard to kind of stock one of everything. The newer elevators, they have a better chance at stocking more, but that's hopefully that answered your question. Yes.
On my floor, which is 8th floor, the button, one of the buttons, I think it's the down button, has been out, the outer ring, the actual covering, has been out for possibly a year. At least it seems it's a year, and it's still out. Do I put in a work order? What happens? How do I get? Yeah,
that's anytime you guys experience anything in the elevator, that's a great question, by the way. Putting in the work order is if there's something like a light out or a button that's not working, putting in the work order is the first way to address it. If there's an emergency, of course, we want to let the front desk know, and it'll be ramped up to if there's an entrapment or anything like that, we'll be Johnny on the spot, I guarantee you. But that's the best way to do it. As far as the light out on the ring, are you saying that the button does not work, or just the light on the outside?
Just the button. It's the button that you push.
Right.
It's just the outer covering.
The outer cover is missing, or
it's missing.
Okay. Well, I can definitely look and see if there's anything in our work order system, which I don't believe that there is. And if we're not aware of that, if there's not a work order, then we can't really fix it. So I'll check on that. I don't believe that I've seen anything, or especially for a year, I can pretty much guarantee that there's not a work order. And but we'll get one in and get that replaced. I do want to say that with the buttons on the inside of the elevator and the outside of the elevator, that's to talk about that for a second. There are plastic rings and parts on the inside of that, and so I've seen on several occasions where people hit it with a cane or punch it with something that's metal, and that can really do damage to those buttons and cause them to kind of break internally and come out. I'm not suggesting that that's what happens. That's what happened, but that's what can happen. So I want to ask, just like you guys are being really gentle with me, be really gentle with with the elevator buttons. And on a separate note, when they come in to replace the internal buttons and the external buttons, they have to take, especially in those elevator banks, they have to take 2 of those elevators down because they're powered the same. So in order to replace the button, it really impacts a lot more than just that particular elevator. So what we can do can really impact the well-being and the health of our elevators.
Mark, how old are the elevators in the Central Tower?
How old are they?
How old are they?
So what happens?
Okay, then that's okay.
No, let me. I'm going to try to answer this question. So, there's kind of a misnomer about replacing elevators. And so let me sort of backtrack here. Elevators aren't replaced. It's not like a car, or they just come in with a brand new elevator and stick it in there. They're not. What happens is they basically rebuild them in place. And so when that happened last, to answer your question, I'm not sure. Those aren't the original elevators. They've been replaced since, but I don't have that answer. I can find that answer and have that, but I don't have the exact
Well,
age.
the reason I ask is I think we could save ourselves a lot of grief if we just get up in the morning and look in the mirror. Because as we get older, we fall apart and pieces come off and we put them back on. So I think, if we just understand that these elevators are old and they need to be repaired, then we could just save ourselves a lot of anxiety when things go wrong.
Well, that is true, and I appreciate the grace and your understanding of the situation. But again, like I said, we take it very seriously, and we want them to work just like you want them to work. I spend my waking hours at Horizon House, and I use the elevators a lot to get to you and to get around the campus. And so we are interested in having that work just as much as you are, and we're impacted too. We can't get to our jobs or get to places or if they're not working, and so we take it seriously as well. I do want to kind of circle back to elevator culture in a second, but I'm going to take another question.
My question has to do with the relationship of the keys being used to poke the buttons in the elevator. If there are some other cautionary things that we should pay attention to, like the door openings.
Yeah, so that kind of dovetails into my next sort of topic. Now that we're in the Q&A portion, but I think I've been here 7 years, or going on 7 years. No round of applause for that? Come on, thank you. Okay, so I've seen the culture kind of switch right kind of in the middle of the pandemic, where people are waiting on, especially in the central and east, waiting on an elevator, and if it's not coming, they'll select it on, let's say, elevator 5 or 6, or I'm sorry, 4 or 5, and if it's not coming, once they've selected it, they'll go around and select another button. And how many of us, show of hands, have come to a floor and the elevator door's open and there's nobody there? A lot, right? This happens. And so I think exercising patience, I've had to tell myself this a lot, and waiting for the elevator instead of selecting multiple elevators not only cuts down on usage, but also helps to not frustrate other people who are waiting on the elevator. How many people have been waiting for an elevator and see it sort of stuck on a floor? Like, why is that not moving? That's another part of the culture too, that and I'm guilty of it too, where I'm in an elevator and someone wants to have a conversation and I hold that elevator. Not only is it not safe and good for the elevator, but it also impacts other people. And so I think that I'm telling myself this, and our employees and the community. It's like maybe there's an opportunity for us all to sort of do better as far as elevator etiquette and not impacting other people, because that contributes to the problem. In no way am I suggesting that we're responsible or we're the problem, but I'm just saying that we can do better to help our fellow residents and our fellow employees sort of have a better experience with the elevators. And I have another question happening right here.
Thank you. Elevator number 3, the freight elevator from
Yes.
Central Tower.
Yes.
A whole group of people can get on there, put their numbers on, the elevator starts moving, and the numbers all go off. And it's been reported numerous times to the
Yes.
desk.
Yes.
So you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and
Thank you.
I have an answer for that. Now, what they did, and that's part of the when they did 1 through 5, is they tested everything, and so they do a load test, right? So they put weights in to make sure that the elevator can handle the weight that it's supposed to handle, and also they have new systems in place where if it doesn't recognize, let's say I just get in the elevator myself and I push like 6 floors, it's going to go, well, that guy's not going to 6 floors. This is a false call, and it'll cancel. Now, if I go in the elevator and I got 6 engineers and I press 6 floors, it'll go, hey, that's the amount of weight, the appropriate amount of weight in the elevator. That's not a false call. Let's go. So to your point, there might be some calibration that they still have to do on that elevator, but that's what it's designed to do, is to make sure that someone's not in the elevator just having fun and making it stop on a bunch of floors when it's not really the proper weight in there. Does that make sense?
No, but it's been legit.
I do hear you, and like I said, this is something that they'll probably have to calibrate, but that's the reason it's in place.
The thing that you were talking about, Mark,
Yes.
the things that you talked about were specifics, which is very, very, very valuable to know about. But what you didn't deal with is the most important question of all, and that is, why is it that the elevators are probably the #1 concern of people who live at Horizon House, at least from my discussions with people.
Right.
And I can't imagine that it's simply a matter of scheduled maintenance. I live in the East Tower, and I don't count the number of times one of those elevators is not working.
Right.
And I think an example of this is the point that Enid was making about the button on the 8th floor. I don't live on the 8th floor, but I've noticed that button has not been there for months and months. And it shouldn't be necessary. It should be irrelevant to talk about putting in a resident putting in a work order about the elevators. I think we have enough problems simply putting in work orders for what's going on in our apartments, much less general maintenance. So that I guess I don't feel as though I haven't been therapized by you, because the general problem seems to me to still exist.
Well, so if I'm, let me try to unpack that. I think that to go back to, putting in a work order, I'll start there. If you see something, you have to say something. I can't understand if something's broken if I don't know about it. I can't fix anything or put a request in to Otis to come out and repair the elevator if I don't know that it's broken. So that's why I'm asking, if you see something that's broken or experience something, that you report it. And the best way to report it isn't to come and tell Brian Holtz or to stop someone in the hallway. It's really to put in a work order. And the work order not only is documented, but there are a lot of eyes on that work order. And with that documentation, we can put the process. We can start the process in having it repaired. And so again, I can go back. I mean, I'm in the work order system daily. I'll be honest, I see it at night too. But in it daily, and I don't recall off the top of my head that there's any work order for that hasn't been addressed. That being said, if there is an issue, we're going to get it taken care of. And as engineers and as a steward of Horizon House, we take care of all of the problems that deal with the building and the lighting and the heating and the structure. And the elevators are a huge part of that. And the reason why it's such a huge topic is because that's how we get around in the city that we have. That's how you get to the fireside. That's how do you get to your storage area. That's how you get to go eat lunch. That's how you visit your neighbors. And so it is basically, I mean, I live in West Seattle and I take a bus here. So if the bus didn't work, then I'm going to call someone about the bus. And that's why it's important. And that's why it's a major issue, is because it's a way in which we traverse the campus that we live in. And that's why it's such an important topic. Did I answer that question?
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
that still doesn't explain why no one has paid any attention to the button on the 8th floor. That shouldn't be the task for the residents, except to maybe let somebody at the front desk know.
Right, that's-
But it's been months since that button has not been fixed.
Okay, so again, I don't live on the 8th floor, and maybe I take another route to get there, another elevator, but I have not seen that button. And right after this meeting, I'm going to go look at it right now. I'm going to actually go look at the work order system, and then I'm going to look at that right now and make sure that there's not been a work order that's been missed. But again, back to my point, it's hard to fix something if I don't know that it's broken. And so that's the best that any of us can do here. If our team sees something that's broken or something that's not right, we will act on that and try to remedy or fix that situation.
How long should we give you?
Oh boy, when you as far as elevators, well, if you put in a work order, it should get addressed immediately. Now, what I can do is I can contact our elevator contractor, which is Otis, and then they come out as soon as they can come out. With certain issues, we will say, hey, you got to get out here yesterday, right? And certain issues, it's like, well, today is fine, but just get out here today. So, yeah, that's it. It's really up to them. But as soon as you report it, the sooner we report it.
Mark, I have a question about the attitude of you and Horizon House with respect to the elevator company.
Yes.
It seems to me you talk about being kind and gentle to the elevator companies, and you talk about situations that are caused by resident misbehavior. It seems to me that the elevator companies ought to be treated like we treat Boeing airplane with respect to facilities.
Right.
This particular facility in which elevators are used, elevators are not just a convenience. They're not just a necessity. They are essential
Absolutely.
for health purposes. And I think that's a place where it's not acceptable to call up Boeing company and say, well, this airplane won't fly, and have Boeing say, well, we can't get the parts. It'll take a month. That just doesn't work in that field. It shouldn't work in this field. And I think you need to take a much harder attitude toward these companies if we're going to have the kind of health facilities, which I think an elevator here is, that are needed for our residents. So don't talk to me about being kind and gentle to the elevators company. I don't find that acceptable.
Well, I want to say I started this by asking you guys to be kind and gentle to me, not the elevator company. Secondly, I want to say that, like I said, we take this very seriously. So there's not a cavalier attitude about, well, it can wait or it's not important. I said it earlier, and I'll say it now. We take it very seriously. We understand how this impacts not only the residents, not only the people visiting, not only the people that call it their home, but it impacts the employees too. And when I said it earlier, I don't live at Horizon House, but I spend my waking hours here, and so it impacts me as well. So we take it very seriously. I want to let everyone know that it is important, and which is why I'm talking to you today. I don't want to confuse what I said earlier about the part we can play in helping to not only report issues, but also how we treat the elevator is also important. But all of it has value. Not one thing is more value than the other. And I just want to make sure everybody knows, like I said when I started this, is we take it very seriously. And I hope that you guys realize that, that's the case.
Hi, Mark.
Hi.
Yes, I like my fans.
Oh, good, good.
That took a work order.
It did.
You've mentioned several things, and the last two questions maybe address what I'm about to ask. The way I look at it is that this is a three-pronged responsibility. It's a responsibility of Horizon House to maintain the elevators, to contact Otis and all that. It's a responsibility of Otis to provide the parts. But I think the one piece of responsibility that isn't focused as much on, which you touched on, and that is all of us. And so my question to you is it possible to post the ethics, elevator ethics, in the mailroom? To help us remember these are the things that we shouldn't do because it's going to just increase the chance the elevators are going to break.
I'll have to unpack that with communications and some other people that get paid a lot more than I do. But I do want to say that, and thank you for that statement and question. Again, I don't want to suggest, and I am not suggesting that this is our fault or your fault. I'm suggesting that we can have an impact on not only how they run, not only reporting things, and how quickly they can be fixed. I'm not saying that it's your responsibility. I'm saying we can impact that. That's a clear difference in saying that it's a responsibility of you to make sure the elevators are fixed. It really is our responsibility. So I want to say that we're all in this together. That's really the point that I'm making, and so. But thank you, and I'll check into that.
But that's kind of my point, that it is a three-pronged responsibility, and we know, I think everybody here is focused on Otis's responsibility and Horizon House responsibility, but I'm just suggesting it might be good to have an ethics, this is how you treat the elevators, this is what you don't do, that's posted somewhere, just to remind us. And the other thing, this is just a simple question. I'm probably the only one in this room that doesn't know the answer. Could you tell me which numbers are which elevators? Because I don't have a clue.
Okay. I'm gonna quickly answer that, and then I'm gonna get to you. Okay. Well, okay. So the way I learned how to get around Horizon House was through the elevator numbers, and so North Tower is the newest tower, so it has the newest numbers. So we have 11 elevators currently at Horizon House. The newest part of Horizon House is the North Tower, so 10 and 11 are over in the north part of North Tower. Right over here at Fireside, there's 8 and 9. If you're facing it, you're going to read it. If you're facing the North Tower, it's going to go 10 and 11. And if you're facing that one, it's going to go 8 and 9. Then when you get to the Central and East, it's kind of a horseshoe. So in front of reception, that's 4 and 5. The service elevator is 3. Now when you go down next to Executive Row, that's 1, and the one next to the Memorial is 2. Now 6 and 7 are in the West Wing.
So Mark, Ronnie, I'm over here.
Okay.
So I have 3 questions. I'd like to ask them all.
Yes.
Elevator 5 was out for a long while and then it was repaired.
Yes.
Since it's been repaired, there have been weird noises as it goes up and down,
Yes.
as if the elevator's hitting something.
Yes.
What is that?
Okay, so They're coming back. I talked earlier about making adjustments, and so that's on their list to make an adjustment so those things aren't, so you don't hear those noises.
Okay, thanks.
That's a long and short of that answer.
Okay.
You had another. We got two more.
Right, next question. Sometimes an elevator will be down, and it just is down for no reason that we know of.
Right.
And then it comes up again the same day,
Right.
or maybe an hour later.
Okay.
What's going on there? I mean, it's clearly not a repair. What kind of situations cause that?
I think I know what you're talking about. So sometimes we take the elevator, as engineers, we take the elevator out of service. So if there's a medical emergency, or sometimes if there's we're moving a critical piece of equipment, we can take that elevator and put it what is called, you'll see an IN. It's independent mode. We can take that elevator out of service to make sure that the EMTs can get to the apartment or the location as fast as possible. So sometimes you'll see that it'll say it'll be out of service and there'll be no sign and it just won't work. It is working, and that's why. Does that make sense?
Yes, so IN means
Independent.
independent, and that's going to be a temporary situation.
Not always, but in most cases, that's what it is.
Okay, thanks. And last question, if I can remember it. I think earlier today we heard something about an express elevator going up to the 9th floor.
Okay.
What's that all about?
So, great questions, by the way. They're all great questions. But so they have a sales event that happens, and what we have done is we kind of take an elevator that only goes to the 9th, the two elevators, 4 and 5, go to the 19th floor. And for 30 minutes, we'll take that and put it in independent mode and just basically go between 19 and the first floor. So when that sales event goes on, they have to be there at a certain time. And because those are the only two elevators that take you to 19, the other 3 do not, we want to get them there as quickly as we can and release it and let them go to the meeting, and we'll take them back down and release it. And so it's a short amount of time, and I'm usually operating the elevator. So anyone on the first floor, I've met plenty of you and taking you to your floor as we're going up and coming down. But that's why. It doesn't happen that often, but that's what they were talking about earlier. Yes.
There it is.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Regarding
Etiquette? Yes.
etiquette for elevators, if you could tell us what things hurt the elevator, I mean, and really being so specific, is it hitting it too many times?
No. No, the elevator, they're kind of good at telling you with things they don't like. So if you hold the elevator and you're holding it, that's a real, that we don't want to do that. We don't want to hold them for a long period of time. Of course we want to, if someone's coming, we can hold it for them, but we don't want to hold it and have a conversation while we're going to back to our homes or
What
going
does
someplace.
it do, though? I mean,
What it does is it can cause an elevator to what we call time out.
Okay.
And then when it times out, it'll say, hey, something's wrong, I'm not moving and I should be moving, and it'll shut down. And then we have to have the elevator come out and reset it.
right. If there are other things like that, that's what we need to hear, and that's part of our etiquette.
Right.
And,
Yeah. We
yeah.
can I'll work with some people on the leadership team, and we'll get something out there and comms, and we'll try to get something out there, and it might appear on HHTV and maybe in the mail room, and it'll in some other places. But yeah,
that would be great, because I know I've been tempted to do this or whatever. Anyway, my second point is,
Yes.
If you could just put a little plaque or some way, put the number of the elevators.
They're all located on the first floor, and that's that. So if you go to an elevator on the first floor, you'll see it in the corner of the elevator or on top of the sort of elevator, the elevator number.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah, on the first floor, on the main floor, it's on every elevator.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
What is the protocol? What's easiest on the elevators? When there are several people trying to get on and the door starts to close, you're in danger of being crushed.
Right.
I've seen people physically try to
Yeah.
keep the door open.
I wouldn't do that. To physically try to hold the door open, no. There's sensors that, so if you put your hand out and the elevator senses something in between, it will open. Now, if you have to physically try to stop it, don't do that. That is definitely not safe and not suggested. There's also a button on the inside that will actually say, and you'll have to find it because they're different. We have elevators that are different ages and different. So you'll have to find it inside that actually says open the door, and there's one that says close the door.
Well, I've heard some people say that you should not touch the edge of the elevator door. Just hold your hand.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting. So if the doors are closing and you just kind of stick your hand in between, it should sense that. If it does not and it keeps closing, pull your hand back and let it close. They can take the next elevator.
Okay, so you shouldn't touch it. Then.
You don't want to force the doors. You don't want to at all. No.
Well, should you touch it at all?
No, just like I said, you can stick your hand in between and it'll sense that. And if it doesn't sense it, then either it's timed out or it's about to time out, or it's just wants to close and just let it close. Instead of having a down elevator or someone that gets injured, they can catch the next elevator. Does that answer your question?
Well, I've heard a couple of versions. One that if you do touch the door, it can cause the elevator to malfunction.
It can, because again, what I'm saying is when it's trying to close and it doesn't sense you, it needs to close, and it can cause it to time out. Yeah.
Mark, you were talking a little back about the towers, and one thing I've been lobbying for since I've been here, which is about 8 months, is to have a diagram of the campus showing where the towers are relative to each other.
Yeah, I think that, again, I know that with West Tower coming online, I think that's something that they have in the works. But again, that's going to be up to someone who gets paid a lot more money than I do to make that decision. But I think that's a great suggestion.
Is there a capacity for the number that should be on the elevators, for instance, the North Tower?
I can pretty much guarantee you this. If you can fit people into the elevator, it can take that capacity.
Okay.
It's designed for that. And I do want to say that the elevators are safe. So if the elevators aren't going to fall or anything like that. They're not. They simply cannot fall. What they can do is stop, but they will not fall. All right. It may feel like you're falling because it's stopped or you feel like there's motion, but I can guarantee you they will not fall. I have one more. All right.
Oh, the elevators that take from assisted living.
Yes.
Floors 2 and 3.
Yes.
When we have events that we're escorting residents down, is it possible for those two to stay open a little bit longer? Because the door does bang up against wheelchairs, etc. because we're pushing somebody
Right,
in,
right.
and we can't get around to push the open
Right.
door.
There might be an adjustment they can make, especially for elevator 3. I think that's the one you're talking
Yeah,
about, the service
well,
elevator.
Those 2 elevators
Yeah.
that we use.
Yeah, there might be an adjustment they can make. I'll look into that and get back with you.
Because it is
Absolutely.
true. It happens.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when the serveries open up, we won't be really moving a lot of people around through those floors for like we've had to the last number of months.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. I want to say thank you again, and thank you for sticking around and not killing me. Let's be honest. I'm still here. I didn't expect. I thought this was going to be my last day, literally and physically. Thank you so much. We're going to do this again. Maybe next time we'll unpack more elevator discussions. But we will be talking about other topics related to Horizon House, as far as things that are facilities, appliances, cable, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you so much.